Hey, what's up guys, welcome to my Flutter Essential course, and in this particular course we are gonna talk about the essential parts of Flutter when you are starting your journey with Flutter. So if you're learning Flutter, so this is the first course which I would recommend you to take, because there will be all the essential things which you need when you deal with Flutter, especially if you are someone who has never worked with Flutter yet. So this is definitely a good to go course for you. And as you know that all the courses which are available on MTech Viral School, they are very short and concise courses, which means you will get the value out of it without wasting your time. So that's the idea. So guys, before we start the Flutter development, then first of all we need to install Flutter. So we will go to this flutter.dev website, as you can see, flutter.dev. And once you go there, so this will be something like this. You will click on the get started button, which is on right top. So I'll click here, and as soon as I click here, you will see these kind of options like Windows, Mac OS or Linux. You can select any of them depending on what operating system you are using. So I am using Mac OS, then I can just go here and I can install the Flutter version. And guys, one more thing is that right now what you will find here is this stable version, which is 1.12.13 hotfix 7. So this is something which you can use. Although I am on the developer channel, so there are develop channels, master channel, and beta channel, stable channel. So there are a lot of channels. So every channel has a purpose. Like master channel is the latest one, where you can also see a lot of bugs because it's the latest one. Then comes the develop channel, which is for developers, and it has slightly less bug than the master channel. Then comes beta, which is again better version, and then stable, which is supposed to be bug free. So this is the situation, and here you will follow this guide. I'm not gonna show you how to install everything from scratch because that will be a lot of time, but you are open to comment if you see any kind of issues, and we'll definitely fix it out. And then for Windows also, you need to make sure that everything is like how it has been explained here. You can download either the zip, or you can maybe use Git to clone this particular repository. And one problem which happens with Windows user a lot is that they forget to apply this environment variable, and then they see that their Flutter command is not working. So please make sure that you follow the guide entirely, and then you can do something like you can go to your terminal and you can try to run Flutter command, and you will see these options. If you're not seeing them, that means the Flutter is not working properly. So once you install it, whether you are using Windows, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Linux or whatever, you can definitely go ahead and then you can go to your console. And then what you have to write is, rather than just Flutter, if you are sure that you have installed Flutter properly, then you can run Flutter Doctor. So what Flutter Doctor will do for you? So Flutter Doctor is basically kind of a doctor which you normally understand, right? So it will see all the things, like everything is proper or not, and what you are missing or what you are not missing. So as you can see, my Android toolchain is ready, Xcode is ready, Chrome, Android Studio. I have two versions, so that's why two Android Studios, IntelliJ IDEA, VS Code, and I have some connected devices as well. And you can see I am on channel dev with version 1.15.2, but because I am doing a lot of experiments as well, so that's why I'm using this channel. You can use it, but then there can be some bugs, so I'll suggest you to be on stable only. And guys, one more thing is that if you want to develop for Android, I would recommend you to download Android Studio as well, so that it will come with all the necessary things. So that there should be some the Android SDK manager, there should be the emulator and all that stuff, so that you don't feel that kind of problem when you are dealing with Android app development. And if you want to develop for iOS, then you need a Mac OS, and then you also need Xcode for that. So that is something which is important. And for me, I'm using VS Code, but then also if you are gonna use VS Code, then also I'll just say that install Android Studio, because there is no harm installing that, because sometimes it can be useful. So we will definitely talk about that in future as well. So now I am done with this part. In VS Code, if you are using VS Code, if you are not using VS Code, then also I'll suggest you to use VS Code, so that you can get better maybe build time results and also better development experience. So once you are on VS Code, you have to go to extensions and you have to write Flutter extension, and you have to install Flutter extension from here, and then you can also install the Dart extension. Either of them will work, but it doesn't matter if you install both of them. Then if you want snippets, then there is rash ramdial snippets, which you can definitely use, and this can be pretty handy, although you don't necessarily need it. And there are some couple of other extensions like prettier and git lens, all those things which you can use. Definitely you can check my VS Code video, which I'll show you, which will be there in the notes, and definitely you can see what extension you can use there. Now coming to the VS Code, we will press Command Shift P, and if you are on some other platform, let's say Windows, then you can replace command with Control. So Control Shift P, and first of all I'm gonna change the toggle mode, and then I'm gonna write Flutter new project. As you can see, we have a new project here, and we can click here, and then we have to give the project name. Okay, so I'm gonna give it awesome underscore app. Okay, and I'm gonna click enter. I have to select my folder, and then this will create my project. Okay, so it will take some time to create the project for me, and as you can see, by default what we will get, iOS language is Swift and Android language is Android X. Sorry, Kotlin. So, and it is supporting Android X. So that's what we get. And then we are also gonna see how this structure is working, what it all means. And I'm gonna just run this quickly so that you can see what's actually happening with this default application which you get. And in the meantime, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you something. So I'm gonna show you this by the time it's running. So as you can see, I am on my iPad, and this is how the structure looks like, right? As you can see here. And I'm gonna just explain what this means. So the first two is that .dart tool and .idea. You can ignore these twos, and I'm just gonna point them out with black. These we don't need actually, or we can just ignore it. Then there is this Android folder which contains all the Android code which native Android developers usually write. And if you are like somehow related to Android app development, or if you know anything about that, then you can definitely check it out. Then there is iOS folder which contains all iOS related stuff, and iOS developers can understand that properly. And then there is a lib folder where we are gonna write all the Dart code. And then there is Mac OS for desktop support, which we are gonna not use. And then there is test, which is for testing, which we will definitely use in one of our courses. And then there is web, which contains index, HTML and all that stuff, which we again gonna see. And then what we are going to do, we are going to go back here with this. One second guys. So we can see this is what we get, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. This is the counter application which we get by default. And then guys, one thing also I would like you to install is Git. So if we go to Google and we will write Git, then the first link which you will get, you have to download this. So this is a version control system which will help you in keeping your code up to date, as well as you can check what you have done in history. You can create multiple branches and all that stuff. And as I told you, this is just not about Flutter. There are many other things which we will learn during this particular course and other courses as well. So these are the things which are actually very useful for developers when doing real world development. So definitely I would suggest you to download this, and then we will set up Git in next video as well. and then we will see this home page properly in the next video. So guys, this is what we have got. This is the counter application which we have got. So now again, talking about these folders, let me just show you what we are getting here. So Android, as I told you, there will be all the Android related code which you might be familiar or not, and similarly for iOS. And then in the lib we will keep all our Dart files. So basically this is where we are gonna work. Then Mac OS is again the same thing like iOS, and the test which will have all the testing files. And for web, as you can see, there is index.html and all those files. And another important file for us is pubspec.yml, where we will keep all the dependencies. So whatever third-party library or plugin we want to use, we are going to use it here. Okay, now moving ahead, this is something which we have. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open my terminal by pressing Command J. So I'm gonna just say toggle screencast mode, and then if you will press Command J, or you can press Control J in Windows, and for specifically terminal you can press Control and tilt so that it will open the terminal. And here you can write git and init. So basically the purpose of this is creating a local git repository which will track all of your changes. So as you will see here, this is my version control symbol. If I'll click here, then you can see these are all the changes which are needed to be committed. So I will commit these changes by writing here a message initial commit, which means I am saving it technically to my local repository, and then I can push it to my online repository if I want. So this is something which is very important, because maybe if you want to go back and see what you have done, or maybe you want to keep track of your code, then this is actually very important. Now as you can see, we are here on the master branch. I'm gonna change the branch and I'm gonna name it dev #ch1, which is chapter 1. This will help us in keeping the track of all the chapters which we are gonna cover. And in each chapter there will be some specific detail, like there will be for one chapter for networking, one chapter for share preferences, and one for layout design and all that stuff. Okay, now concentrating on this particular part, as you can see, we have this default application which is not very friendly, at least to understand what actually is happening. So I'm gonna delete all this code, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write void main, which you might be familiar with already, right? So void main is from where everything starts, is like similar to what you might have done in your any other object oriented programming language. And we can see we got some error. Then there is this one method here in Flutter which we call run app. It accepts an particular application. So if you will see here, it takes a widget. So right now it cannot understand it. So basically it takes three kinds of application which you can give. Let's say first one will be widgets app. Second can be you can say material app. Okay, so we can say material app. And third can be Cupertino app. Okay, so the difference between them is I'm gonna just show you. So if what I do, I can import from here widgets.dart. So this will give us widgets app. So I can also show you. So this run app, if you will see here, then it takes an app which is again a widget. So everything in Flutter is a widget, and then a widget is a component. And for example, this is the phone. You can see everything here, like this Sunday Feb 9 is also a widget. These buttons are also the widget, especially this Google search bar is a kind of a widget, and these all icons in a row is a widget itself. So everything is a widget in Flutter. So if we go back to our application, here we can write widgets app. So widgets app will work. The only problem with widgets app is that it's a little bit low level, which means that it will not provide you inbuilt design support by itself. So for that you can use something like a material package. So we can use material flutter slash material dot dart, and rather than this widgets app we can use material app. Okay, and let's say if you are fan of human interface design which is in iOS or Mac OS, so what we can do, we can also import this is Cupertino.art, and rather than material app we can write Cupertino app. And this is something which you might have seen in WhatsApp, that its Android application is little different than its iOS application, which I don't know if you have seen it, but yes, that's what people do sometimes as a brand, that they show different kind of UI depending on the operating system. So that's also you can do, but for the simplicity and for a universal design, we are gonna use material.dart at least for now, and then in future we will also discuss the Cupertino design. So I'm gonna use here material app, and then I'm gonna use something like you can say here we have few properties like home. So I'm gonna give it a home widget, which is, let's say, a container itself. So a container with a color. So color, so what this material is giving us is like there are a lot of widget which it gives, and then it gives us a colors library which we can use to import any of this color here. So I can say, like, let's say I want to use a purple color, so I can just search here, and there are a lot of colors, so I can write purple. So as you can see now, nothing is reflected here because we have two buttons here which are very important. One is this, the flash button, which is hot reload, and then this green button which is hot restart. So whenever you do some changes in material app, and if that is a part of run app, then you have to do a hot restart, and then we can see the changes that everything is purple now, right? And then what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna give it a child as well. So child, let's say, and the child can be a text widget. Okay, so a text, and then I can say something like hi Flutter, and you will see here that there should be some Flutter, but it's like somewhere invisible, or we are not able to see it anywhere, and that's the problem with this. So we need to say what color it is, and we need to specify it more. So right now it will not reflect because we haven't done hot restart as well, so that also we need to do. So once I will do hot restart, then you will see hi Flutter on the screen. The problem is that it is not looking very great, and you might have heard me saying that material package, if we will use, then it will give us better design, but it's not looking good. So what we can do, we can create a new widget from here, which is a stateless widget. So if you will write STL, then it will give you a shortcut to write this widget, let's say home page. Okay, and we are gonna copy this container code from here, and we will paste it here, and everywhere you need to see that it will either extend stateless widget or stateful widget. I'll show you the difference, what is the difference between them. Then it will also override a build method. So this extends means that it is inherited something. So it's like parent and child relationship. So you are, as a child, must have inherited few things from your parents. So that is like this home page is also inheriting this build method from its parent, and then some other things as well. And overriding it means that whatever they have provided, you will override it with your own. Like they have given you a wallet, there is some kind of thing that every parent will give their child a wallet, and then they can override it, that what they want to enter in that wallet or what they want to keep in that wallet. So that's up to you. So this is the same thing we have done. Now rather than this container, we will call it home page. And once we do that, and as you can see now, if I do a hot restart, everything will be remaining the same. But this time if I will change it to hi Flutter app, then you will see we can see the changes quickly as soon as I press Command S, or as soon as I press this hot reload. So once you are out of this run app method, then hot reload will start working. So that's also what you can do. And now it's again still not looking so convincing, so we are gonna use another widget which we can call Scaffold. So Scaffold is basically kind of a structure which has some basic widgets like an app bar. So app bar, if you will hover here, then it will show you that it takes a preferred size widget which can be app bar itself. So app bar widget we can use, then it has many properties as you can see, and we are gonna use title property. And as you can see on the right hand side, our app is looking much better now. And then we can say text, and here I can say, let's say awesome app. And as you can see, this is looking much better. Now I want to change its color from blue to something like a purple. So inside this material app, we will come back, and here there is something called theme, and which takes a theme data. So I'm gonna select it, and I'm gonna say that I want the theme data, and inside that there is many properties like brightness, font family, canvas color, accent color, card color, and lot more things. I'm gonna use primary swatch, which is a collection of colors which we can use. So let's say if I say colors.red, if I give red color, then it will take some combination of colors depending on red, and it will give it to entire application. So I'm gonna say here purple, which means it will give purple to all my colors, like purple as a primary color and other colors which is which suits best with purple. And now I'm gonna do hot restart because I am doing changes inside the run app method, so you need to do hot restart. And now you can see we got purple, which is looking much better. And now in the body part of it, we can use the same container which we were using earlier. So container, and in the child we can say text, and inside the text we can say hi Flutter. So as soon as I will say it, you can see hi Flutter here, and this is looking great, right? So in the next video we will talk about more widgets and what are the differences between them, how to use these widgets, and where to use which widget. So see you in the Hey guys, so now we are gonna see other things as well. Like we have seen how to create our application, what are like themes which are available or colors which are available, as well as we saw Scaffold and the stateless widget. So stateless widget is something which is not supposed to change, which means whatever you are seeing on screen, let's say you are seeing this hi Flutter, so this is always going to be hi Flutter, it's not going to change, which means it's stateless. So any widget, there is many components which you will see in particular series, and every kind of component is a widget, as I already told you. Now before proceeding guys, we are gonna commit these changes that our chapter 1 is completed. You can write something like this, and then I'm gonna press this right key, done key, to commit this. And then I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna create a new branch which I'm gonna say dev hashtag ch2, which means chapter 2. So these are some chapters which just for tracking, so you can definitely visit this GitHub repository and then you can see the branches to understand it once you are watching this course on my school. So this is what you have to do. Now guys, we will explore more widgets, and now the most powerful widget which we are gonna explore is container itself. So container is kind of you can say a box. So if you are familiar with HTML, then it's something which is very similar to div. So this is what we have here in as container. So inside this body part you can see this container, right? So now we are gonna play with it and we will, let's see what we can do with this. So I'm gonna just remove this child as of now, and then we are gonna give some color to this container. So let's give it a color, let's say red. So colors.red, and as you can see, this time it is taking the entire screen, and that's not something which I want. I want a box here, okay, a small box. So what I can do, I can give a width to it, let's say 100 pixels. So it's a density pixel, which is dp, and similarly we will give it a height of 100. And then you can see we have a box here, right, and the red color box. Now we want it to be in the center, so we can use another widget here, which we can just, so you will come to this container and you will press command dot or control dot, or you can also press this bulb here, which you will see in VS Code. And if you are using Android Studio, then you can press alt enter. So if I'll click here, then there are many options like wrap with widget, wrap with center, wrap with column. So either you can use wrap with widget and then you can write center, or you can directly wrap with center. And now if I'll save it, then you can see in the center of this screen, this is the box. And similarly, it has many other features which we get from container. So now I'm gonna also write the child again, and this time I'm gonna say I am a box. So now you can see we have I am a box. Now it is like very much touching the corner of the container, so I don't want that. For that I have some other properties of containers which has this padding. So padding means that it will compress that widget and it will provide some space. So there are two properties, one is margin and one is padding. Margin means just left and right or top or bottom adjustment, but padding means is compressing them. So you will see the difference itself. So if you will use padding, then it will work in this case for I am a box or text, and if you will use margin, then it won't work. So for padding, if you'll see what it takes edge insets geometry. So I'm gonna use a constant edge insets, and then it has many properties or many methods, I should say. So these are the methods like all to give that padding to entire corners, let's say left, right, top, bottom, from everywhere. And only, which means that for specific, let's say just for left, symmetric, which means horizontal or vertical, and LTRB, which means left, top, right, bottom. So anything you can decide. So I'm gonna select all and I'm gonna give a padding of 8, and now you will see that I am a box got some padding, right? And if I would have used margin here, then you might have seen no difference, and that's because margin is just for adjustment between those components. So that's the difference. So padding we are gonna use. Now there are other properties, as you can see here, alignment. Okay, so alignment means where you want to place this child, okay, where you want to align it. So we can use something called alignment dot. Let's say we want to show it in the center, then you will see I am a box in the center. And let's say if you want to see it in the bottom right, then you can just say bottom right, and you will see it here in the bottom right. So this is the purpose of alignment. There are a lot of enums which you can use: bottom right, bottom left, top left, top right. So let's say top left, so you'll see it in the top left. So these are the things which you can do. Then guys, you might be wondering, what is this child? So every container or everything has either one child or many children. So basically, if you say that there is one component, so let's say row, okay, so row is basically there will be, so if you are making a row, there will be one element or more than one. So in that case, there will always be children. Let's say list view, row, column, and like these kind of widgets where it is container, sized box, or small components which can have only one child. So then you will use child. So I'm gonna explain it more in the future as well, so don't worry if you don't understand something. And then the most important property of container, which is gonna be very useful for you, is one is constraints, which is kind of not very useful until unless you go into deep like UI designs. Otherwise, the most important which I'm going to talk about is decoration, by which you can do a lot of things with this container. You can provide gradients, you can give shapes, you can give images, whatever you want to do. So this decoration takes a box decoration. So box decoration I'm gonna say, and now you can see it has many properties like image, color, and gradient and all that stuff. Now there is some error, and the error is saying that something related to color. And the problem is, guys, so once you want to decorate something, which means you have already given it color, okay, and this box decoration also have a color property, as you can see. So these will clash. So either you can give a color here, or you can use a box decoration. So because we are using box decoration, so I'm gonna remove this color from here, and the error will be gone. But we are losing our color, so we will come here inside this box decoration, and will give the color. And now the error is also gone, and we also got our color back. Now we have a lot of other things, like we can give a border radius, we can give a shape. So for shape, it takes a box shape, so we can say box shape dot circle or rectangle. So we can select circle, and you will see we will see this kind of circle, and it is going beyond here, like the circle, and the text is not exactly inside the circle. So container has some clip behavior as well. So how you want to clip it, so you can say clip hard edge non anti-alias. So make sure you are using anti-alias so that you will not see that part of like now you can see the text is not here outside this particular container. So that's what you can do. There is more options like none, which means you will see the text. And then there is anti-alias with save layer, which is kind of expensive, so I will say again not to use it. And then there is hard edge, so just ignore them. You can just use anti-alias in most of the cases to get your shapes properly. So I'm gonna just remove it right now. And rather than this shape dot circle, we want to give some rounded corners, right? So it's like there is no corner, this is this hard edge corner. So rounded corner, we can use border radius, and we can say border radius dot circular, and let's give a radius of 10 from all the sides. And now you can see we have a border radius, and this is looking much better, right? And then guys, we can also give shadow to this. So for that, you can see we have, like, you can give border as well, you can give box shadows. So for box shadow, it takes an array, so we can say box shadow. And then we can say color, so I want to use gray color. And then we can give a blur radius, let's say 5. So now you will see something like a shadow here. As you can see, there's a slight shadow. If I increase the blur radius to 10, then you will see a better version of this shadow. Now similarly, as I told you, you can apply gradients. So here, if I go to this below border radius, then there is something called gradient. There can be many kind of gradient, like linear gradient, radial gradient, sweep gradient. So I'm gonna use linear gradient because that's what we are gonna use most of the time. It asks for colors or begin or stops point, so I'm gonna give it some colors. So first color, let's say we will give it something like a pink. And oh, it's looking so bad because at least we need 2 colors. And second colors, I'm gonna give it something like a yellow maybe. Let's try this. And now, and you can see this is how a gradient will look like, right? And it's looking so good, right? And now guys, I'm gonna explain. Let's do one thing. Let's put this text in the center. So we will use this alignment to center it, and it's looking much better. And now we will move to this text. So this text is again a very important widget because everywhere you are gonna use text, so you should know all its properties. So it has many properties, like you can align the text, you can give how many lines this text can take, what is soft wrap, what you want to do for overflow cases. But most important is this style which we are gonna use. It takes a text style, so everything is here inside this text style, like font size, font family, and the font weight. So I'm gonna give it a font size of 20, let's say. And as soon as I will give it 20, you can see it goes like this. I want to center them still. So there is a text property which is text align. I can use them, and I can say text align dot center, and you will see the box, I am a box, is now in center. Now if you want, you can also change the color of the text. So let's say I want to say colors dot white, so I can give it white, and then you can see this is the white color. Now I want to make it bold, so I can say font weight dot bold, and use commas to just move it to the next line so that it looks good. Now it is bold as well. So yeah, these are some of the most common kind of you can use letters, heights, and decoration also, like you want to have underline in this particular text, word spacing, so a lot of other stuff, but these are some common ones which I just showed you. And in the next video I'm gonna talk about most important widgets like these, and let's see in the next video. Hey guys, so we have seen container, which is kind of a very useful widget, a text as well. Now moving ahead, let's talk about some more widgets, and we will see what else can be very useful for us and what else we should definitely consider using. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna first of all remove these bulky container, like this decoration I don't want right now, so I will remove it. Even I will remove the child as well. So let's remove all of this so that it can be very simple, and then we will give it back the color, and so we can say colors dot red, and it looks good. Now I'm also gonna remove this center from this, so remove this widget, or if you want you can just place it like this, so it's totally your call. So let's place it as of now, we will then remove it. There is this container, but let's say I want 3 containers in a row. So how I will place this, so as you can see the center can have only 1 child, so how I will have 3 child. So basically for that we can use something called a row or a column. So because we want to place it horizontally, so we will use a row here. And as you can see, it takes children rather than a child, because it can have 1 or maybe more than 1 elements, or maybe 0. It's totally your call. So first we will have this container, which I just copied and pasted, and by default it came to this left hand side. And then I will have second container which will come to right of it, and then I will have third container which will go again on the other side. And then I'm gonna just change the color of second to yellow and third to green to differentiate between them, so that you can understand row properly. And so it looks like a traffic light, but yeah, it's looking very ugly although. So that is what we have got now. Now what if you want it to be placed in the center, right? So row has a property, a very good property, which we can say main axis alignment. For row, so if it is a row, the main axis would be the horizontal axis. As you can see, this cursor is dragging in the horizontal, so this is its main axis, and then the cross axis will be the vertical axis. Okay, so this vertical axis is cross axis for row, and main axis is this horizontal axis. But for column, the main axis is the vertical axis, and the cross axis is the horizontal axis. So that is the difference. So now I'm gonna say say that main axis alignment dot center to center these elements, and it looks good. Now you can tell me that I just want red on the left hand side to the corner, and right hand side I want the green one. So you can just replace center with space between, and you will see the difference, that this is on the left hand side and this is on the right hand side. And now you might say that okay, it is touching the corner, I just don't want to touch the corner, a little bit of space from here. So in that case you can use something called space around, which will give a little space from here. But then you will see that this space is not evenly mapped with this space, right? In that case you can use something called space evenly, which will distribute them with like equal spaces. As you can see, this is space and this is space is kind of same, right? So these are the things which you can do with this. And then if you want, there is start, and so if you want to push it into the end, so this is also you can do. So now I'm gonna go with space evenly, which looks good to me. And because we have used this center in the top of this particular widget tree, so which means that's why it is in center. If I'll remove this from here, it will go on the top. So as you can see here, because this is the area which it is taking, right? So this will only take the space which it needs. And then there is another property which is cross-axis alignment. Like on the cross-axis, as I told you, this will be the vertical axis for row. So you can say cross-axis alignment dot center, then it will take it to the center. But because this is just a container, so what I'll do, I'll also wrap this row with another widget, which is a container widget, and this time I will give it a color. Okay, so this container has a color, let's say, and I'm gonna say it colors dot teal, just for the sake of giving it a color. And you can see the container is taking teal color, and that size of it is very much limited to these boxes. Okay, so that's why the center of cross-axis alignment is depending on this container. If I, let's say, if I give it a height, let's say 500, then you will see now the container is like 500 height, but this cross-axis alignment dot center is working, which means these boxes are in the center, right? If I change this time from center to, let's say, start, then it will go on the top again. And if I will say end, then it will come on the last portion of it, right? And similarly we can do changes with the main axis alignment. That's what we do, right? So these are the things, again guys, very important. And then we will go back to center, let's say. And now what I want to do, I want to stretch them. So if I'll say stretch, then it will take the entire column, right? So this is what you can do. Now let's go back to center, and now replace this row with column, and you will see the same things. But the difference is that now it's a column, so main axis alignment is actually the vertical alignment, and cross axis alignment is actually the this horizontal alignment. So now because we are giving height to 500, it took the entire height, but actually it does not care about the width. So height is 500, but width is not 500 because it's a column. Okay, so there is also one property, that main axis size, what you want the main axis size to be. So either it can be minimum or maximum. So but this maximum again depends on the parent, that what parent provides you the maximum size. So as we know the container is not providing any maximum size, we can definitely have constraints there, but right now it's actually minimum. So now rather than height, if let's say I say width, then you will see that it takes entire width, entire height, and with 500 width or whatever width you want to say, let's say 300, then you will see it takes 300. And main axis alignment is space evenly, which means the vertical alignment is space evenly. If I will change it to space between, then you will see it will go to the corner of vertical alignment. And then cross axis alignment is actually now row, or you can say horizontally, whatever you can see. Now if I'll say stretch, then it will stretch horizontally, and that's the difference between rows and columns. So these are very powerful and very important widgets which you are gonna use everywhere. So please keep in mind that this is something which we are going to use a lot. In the next video we'll talk about drawer and floating action buttons and all that stuff. So we have actually covered a lot so far, and if you will see now, we have now this giant container with so many components inside it, like so many containers, and this is looking very ugly to be honest. So I'm just gonna give it again a row, and then I'm gonna give it a height which can be again 100, and we don't actually care a lot about it. And so that's why we are gonna finish this chapter with these columns and rows. So I'm gonna go here and I can say chapter 2 completed, and now we will start chapter 3 where we will talk about drawer and how to create beautiful designs. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna create a new branch. I'm gonna call it dev hashtag ch3, and this is our chapter number 3. Now guys, I'm actually going to remove this child from here because it's actually looking very bad and I'm happy with this thing with 100, and let's wrap it in the center. Now let's talk about how we can have a drawer here, okay, and also a floating action button. So first of all, let's cover the floating action button because that is very easy to do in Flutter. So here, after a body, because I told you that Scaffold provides you an entire structure which has a lot of components, and that's what we are gonna see. So we have seen app bar, we have seen body, and if you'll see, there are a lot more widgets. So we are going to use floating action button, and it takes a widget. So what widget would be best for it? That will be again a floating action button itself. So floating action button, as you can see, now we have a floating action button here, okay, and it came with an animation which looks good. Now every button in Flutter needs to be implemented it's on pressed, which means that if that's a button, definitely you are gonna press on it. If you are not gonna press on it, then it should not be a button, right? So by default it is null, but we can do like it takes a void function, so we can have two braces like this with the brackets as well. So which means it's an empty implementation. We will do something in future, okay? And then it takes a child. So for child, you can say I'm gonna give it an icon. So icon is again a widget, and similarly to colors, we have icons library from which we can pick any material design icon. Let's say I'm gonna use edit, and you can see this has taken the color to white itself. I haven't specified, but Flutter understands the size and color as well. So most of the widgets understand what kind of child they want and what should be the size and color of it. So this is the floating action button. Now again, there are other properties like how much elevation you want to give, what should be the background color, what should be the shape, hero tag, and if you want this button to be a little smaller, then you can say mini is equal to true, and then it will be smaller, but usually it's a normal, so we will remove this property, and or we can do it like make it false, autofocus, hover color. So these are the few things which maybe you will use with Flutter for web, but right now we don't need it, so I'm gonna remove it. Then also guys, there is one more property for floating action button, which is its location, and there is one animator as well, but that's we are not gonna use right now. But floating button location, we can use floating button location dot what location you want to use. If you want to attach it with center, with a bottom bar or something, it will come here and it will be attached. But if you want to make it little floatable, so it will not attach to any bottom bar and it will float, it will have some margin. And then similarly you can do it for, let's say if you want on the top, so it will say start top, it will go on the top. And similarly you can maybe end docked, end float, so it will go again on the same place. So for the simplicity and for the betterment of design, I'm gonna remove it again. This was just to explain you. Now we are gonna quickly make a drawer and how difficult it can be. So with body there is another property which we can say, let's say drawer, and it takes a widget which is again a very interesting widget, and the name is drawer. So yeah, that's only what you have to do. Now we have a drawer, and if you click on it, we see this white screen which is I don't know what kind of screen it is. It's having nothing. Okay, now we are gonna make a very good drawer. So inside this drawer you will see what properties it takes. So it has elevation, semantic label, child. So we are gonna use this child. And guys, as you will see that with every widget you will see this property which is this key property. So you can specify keys to every widget. It's totally your choice, and there can be many kinds of keys. Let's say local key, unique key, object key. The purpose of keys is that it helps the framework in understanding that what widgets are needs to be again repainted or redrawn. So it helps that if you don't provide a key, then framework itself provides a key to these widgets, and it helps it in actually redrawing everything. So right now we are not gonna discuss it, but in future we will definitely focus on keys and how to use them in some other course. So because it's just essential, so you probably don't need it right now. So in drawer there is something called child, and here we are going to use a list view, and in the future videos we will talk about ListView.builder, which is kind of a recycler view, you can say, where we will also recycle the elements. But right now we just want to use a list view, and inside the list view we again have a children, because as I told you that list view column rows must have children's. So now in this list view, the first thing which I want is some kind of a drawer header. So drawer header is definitely a widget here. It takes a child, and in the child I can say text, hi, I am a drawer. And yes, we got the drawer, guys. It's looking good, not the best, but yes, it's looking fine. And okay, that's what we have, right? We can also give it some kind of decoration. So I'm gonna use a box decoration, and then I can give it a color. So let's say I'm gonna give it same color, let's say purple. And guys, it's looking good, but you know, there is this problem that the upper part of it is having this gray background, because the list view by default gives some padding. So we want to remove that padding. So we will use this padding, and we will say const edgeinsets.all, and we will give the padding to 0. And now you will see this is looking much better, right? So now we have the drawer ready. Now we want some items. So here after drawer, because it takes children, so we can have other elements or other widgets. So another very useful widget with list view is list tile. So we are gonna use list tile. So list tile gives us a lot of things, like it gives a leading property where we can have something on the left hand side of this particular portion. So we can use something, let's say an icon, and icons.person. Then you will see we have icon on the left hand side. It's looking very good. Now there is one more property called title. We can give it a title. So let's say text, and I'll give it my name, let's say Pawan Kumar. And now we have a title as well, and we can have a subtitle as well, guys. So for subtitle we can say, let's say developer, and yes, we have a subtitle. But then we have a trailing icon as well, or trailing widget as well, and everything takes a widget. So it's not like you have to just give it an icon. You can give anything here, or text or whatever, but I am gonna give it an icon, and this time I'm gonna give it, let's say, our edit icon. So an edit icon is added here, and this is looking very good. I'm gonna just copy it and I'm gonna paste it. So another here, and this time I will replace it with email, and I'm gonna say Pawan Kumar, I will say email, and I can say Pawan, or maybe mtechviral@gmail.com. So these are the things which you can do, and this time now our drawer looks good. But there is slightly one improvement we can do. This drawer header is not looking so good, and if you have seen Gmail, the drawer look good with a picture as well and lot of other details. So we can definitely do that here as well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove this drawer header. There is something called user account drawer header which we are gonna use, and it is basically for applications like Gmail, where you can say account name, account email. So for account name you can say it takes a widget. So we can give it a widget, let's say text, and I can again say Pawan Kumar, and you will see Pawan Kumar is coming. We haven't specified the location, but it knows where it should show it. And then for the account email, again text, and I'm gonna just say mtechviral@gmail.com. It looks good, right? Really good. Now I also want to add a picture, so I can have this current account picture, which looks good, and the current account picture takes a widget. So I can use, guys, something like so first of all, I'll go to Google, I'll go to unsplash.com. From here I can get some free images. So I'm gonna say a guy, or guy, let's say any random guy we can take, and we can take his picture. So let's copy the let's open this image in a new tab and copy the address. And guys, this time I'm gonna use something called a image widget and dot. Then there is more methods to it, like asset if you are using an image from your folder or application inside your app, or file if you want to use your phone and you want to access a file. Then network if you want to download it from some network, from a URL. And memory if you want to take it from the memory. So we want to use it from network, so we will use network, and I will paste the URL here, and you will see we have this image here, right? This is looking good, but it would look much better if we will use it in a circular component, right, or a widget. So I'm gonna just remove this, and I'm gonna use a circle avatar. Okay, and actually circle avatar has a child where I can actually use the same image, but circle avatar, if we will provide even the child, then also it will not give a circular image. Why? Because circle avatar does not work like that, but definitely it has something to offer, and that something is, I'm just gonna show you. So we got the circle. There is one more property, which is background image. There is radius, foreground color, and all that, but we want to use this background image, which takes an image provider. So like we saw the image widget, which has methods like asset, network. Similarly, we have image providers, let's say asset image, okay, and network image. So these are the image providers which we can use. And here now, if I will paste this URL, then you will see a circular image here, and this is looking much better, right? So now we have a full-fledged drawer which looks kind of really good, and especially we can add more things like on details pressed, other account pictures, and even if you want to tap on this list tiles, then there is an on tap property which you can definitely use, and once you click here you can perform some operations. So that's also you can use. So if you click here, you can see we got some ripple effect, but with email, because we haven't implemented on tap, we don't get any effect. So yeah, this is the floating action button and drawer. In the next video, we will talk about more images, like how we can access images from our application. We will also talk about text fields and other things in the next. Hey guys, so we have implemented the drawer, which is looking very nice, and also we have the floating action button, but this home screen, this body part is looking very bad. And then we want to, try to add something else here, and let's see what we can do with this part. Also, we are gonna cover the stateful widget, which we haven't covered yet. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back to this particular screen, I'm gonna search coding, and I'm gonna like have any image from here or there, and I'm gonna just paste it here. So you can download any image and you can paste it. So I have already one image. So in this particular root directory, I'm going to create a new folder. As you can see, in this test is basically giving me some error that there is no my app. So I'm gonna replace it with home page, so that it does not give me any kind of error. And I want to import this, so I can just say command dot. Okay, it's not going to take it because there's something wrong with this. Okay, so we just remove that problem, and now we want to create a new folder for images. So I'm gonna say a new folder, and I'm going to name it assets. So assets, so you can see this is my new folder, assets. It is blank. Now I am going to this pubspec.yaml, but before that, let's add some image here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take one image, and I'm gonna drop it here. So this is bg.jpg, this is one image, and now we have to tell our application that there are images in one folder. So now we will go to our pubspec.yml, and here you will see we have all the dependencies like Cupertino icons, some dev dependencies saying that uses material design, which is true, and here we have some commented code which is assets. We are gonna just uncomment it, and for assets it is using images folder, but you can use any name, but I'm using assets, so I'm gonna say assets and then slash, and I'm gonna remove everything, which means that every image inside the asset folder we want to use that. So we have just one image, but this slash means all the images or all the assets inside your assets folder. So that's being done. Now coming back to main.dart, what I'm gonna do, I'm just going to remove this center and container, and if you want you can just keep that center, just remove the container, and we are gonna talk about another widget which is a card widget, which we will see a lot. So I can use a card widget. So the purpose of card widget is having a card, right, which can have elevation and all that, and right now you can see that there is no card which is visible. And also I want to change the background color of this scaffold. So scaffold has a property called background color, and let's give it a grayish color, gray of 200. So you can also specify the number here to give a slightly different variant of that color. And now we have this card, and now card also have elevation, shape, clip behavior and all that property. I'm gonna use child, and guys I'm gonna use a column here. Why? Because in column I can have many elements vertically aligned, so it takes a children. So first element I want is image dot asset. This time I'm not going to fetch the image from network but from asset, which means from my folders, and I just pasted one image here, and the name of this image is first of all it is inside assets, so assets slash, and now we have to give the image name which is bg.jpg, and now this is the image which we can see. Okay, and similarly if let's say you want to specify if this image how it fits, what is the width and height, you can definitely do that. Let's say if width is 100, so you can see the width is there, but it's looking very ugly, that's the different thing. And if you want to give some height, let's say 100, then also you can see we have this width and height. Now there is one more property, fit, and you can give box fit, so whether it is contained, cover. So if I say contain, then you will see there's not such difference right now, but you will see some differences in different aspect ratios. But if I say fill, then you will see it will fill it, it will basically stretch it, so there will be no gaps. And covers, contain or cover looks almost the same in this particular image only, it's not the same although. So cover is like it will cover it but it will not stretch it, right? So that's a good thing. So cover is mostly the best option, or maybe contain. Fit width, then it will fit the width, and if I'll say fit height, then it will fit the height. And yeah, those are the things which you can do. So right now I'm just gonna remove all of them, and it looks like this, very nice. Okay, and this is the image which we have now. And one thing is that I still can see the card, but it's not looking that great. If you'll see, we have a card here which is taking the entire screen. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, this card I'm gonna wrap it with padding, and I'm gonna give some padding, let's say 16, so that at least we can see the card. And now we can see the card, it's looking good. And then I'm gonna talk about another widget which is a sized box widget. So sized box widget is what, guys, it can use to have a box, a particular box with some size. Okay, and if you don't want to have anything, then you can also use it for spacing. Padding also can be used, but padding looks a little bit uglier because it you need to wrap with it. but sized box is very clean, and here you can just say height, let's say 20 pixels, so it will give a height after image. And then we can have a text, let's say text, and I can say change my name here. So very simple example, change my name, and we are gonna change this name. Okay, so that's why change my name. We can give some styling here, let's say text style. We can give a font size, let's say 25, something like that. It looks good. Let's give it a font weight as bold. Okay, this is looking good. Now guys, there is one more thing which we are going to use, and that is a text field. So text field is an edit text where we can where we can enter some text. So text field is here. I'm gonna use that. And text field also have many properties like controller, which can be used to control this text field. Then where there is style, again text style and all that things which we have already seen. Then the keyboard type, like what kind of keyboard you want. You want text, email, or number keyboard. So all of those things you can specify. Then autocorrect, autofocus, on tap, on submitted, cursor color. So a lot of properties. We are going to use decoration, but this time it is not taking input decoration, but it's not taking box decoration, but it's taking input decoration. So we are going to use input decoration, and inside the input decoration there is border and all that stuff you can specify. But first I want to specify hint text. Now this is not taking a text widget, but it is just taking a string. So I can say enter some text. Okay, and yeah, it's looking good, right? It's looking really nice, and I want to give it a material design feel. So I'm gonna say something like, what else, I'm gonna give it a label as well. So label text, we can say name. So now if you will click here, you can see this is looking good, right? And guys, one more thing we can do here is we can do some padding as well, right? So with this text, and we want some distance between them as well, so we will use sized box to give some more distance, and then we will give the padding as well. So we can have some padding like 8 and maybe 16. In fact, it will look much better. Yes, it looks much better. And now if I'll click here, you can see some overflow pixel issues, which means if my keyboard is coming up, this text field cannot move upwards, which means if it was scrollable, then it could move upward. And as you can see, our floating action button is also moving upward, so that could be better. But before that, we can also give one more design to it. So there is a border property as well. So for border, we can give it outline border, outline input border, which will make it look much more better. Yeah, it's looking much better, but we want to get rid of this particular problem, which is this overflow. So we can go to this column, or we can in fact go to this entire card, and we can wrap it with another widget, which is single child scroll view, which means it's a scroll view which can be scrollable, and it can have just one single child. And now we are having this scroll view. If I click here, then it just goes on the upside, right? And it is scrolling, but it's not giving that error anymore. And our card size is also now making more sense. So yeah, single child scroll view for scrolling. And now what I want, whatever data I write here, okay, if I press this button, this edit button, let me just change it, the icon to, let's say something like sand. And if I just click here, then this change my name text should change. Okay, so basically right now if you will see my home page, then it's a stateless widget, right? So stateless widget, as I told you, is not supposed to change in its entire lifetime. So we need to first of all convert it to a stateful widget. So basically we want to change this change my name depending on this text field. Now this text field is itself stateful widget. Why? Because every time you write something here, things change, right? So whenever there is some change, then you need to make sure that that's a stateful widget. So if you will go inside text field, if you will press command click or F12, then you will see that TextField widget is extending a stateful widget. So that is the thing. So now how we can convert this home page to a stateless widget? We can click on this bulb here and it will say convert class to a mixin or convert to stateful widget. I'm gonna click here and it will convert it. So now we will have two classes basically. One is home page which extends stateful widget, and then another is home page state which extends state. And we will work with this state. State is like what is the current situation of this particular page. So like if you are a human, if you are a person, what can be your state? Whether you are sitting, where you are walking, whether you are doing something, that is your state. So everything on the UI is a state. So now what I'm gonna do, guys, I am going to have first of all my text. So my text by default, its name is change my name, let's say, and I'm going to replace this change my name with this my text. So my text, and now you can see it has this capital letters, so that means this change my name is working. Now I want to need a controller for this text field, so I can say a text editing controller, name controller. Let's say if I use this underscore, which means it's a private field, so name controller and equal to new text editing controller. So as you know, in Dart 2 you don't have to write this new keyword. So if I am writing this, then also it means the same thing. If I remove it, then also it means the same thing. And now I can use this name controller with this text field. So there is some controller and I can say name controller. Okay, and now what I want, guys, is that actually we can go here to this floating action button, and on the press of it, what we can do, we can change my text, which is the text change my name, equal to, and we can give it the text of the controller or the text field. So name controller dot text. So if I now write something here, let's say my name is Pawan. So now if I press this button, then it should reflect, but it does not reflect it, right? But if I do a hot reload, then you will see that Pawan is like reflected. Why this happened? Because whenever there will be some change, let's say now if I replace it with something else, let's say I replace it with Rohit. So now even if I'll press this button, then nothing will actually happen. So why that is not working? Because in Flutter, every time you do a state change, every time you want to change your UI, then you have to call a method called setState. And if I do that, then you will see Rohit here. Now if I'll change this text to something like this, random, and if I'll press this button now, then you will see it will directly reflect it. So this is how you deal with text field. This is how you make a card. This is how you make a stateful widget, and that's how it works. And now this stateful widget or this state has many other methods which you can override, like init state. If you want to initialize something before creating this widget, which means when this screen is creating, before that this method will be called. Similarly, once you destroy this screen, you can call this dispose method. So basically there is dispose, then there is did change dependency, and a lot of other methods which we will definitely talk about in future, but this is about it. And now this is how our chapter 3 is also completed, and we will move to chapter 4 in the next video. So guys, so far we have done everything on a single file, which is again a very big problem with Flutter. If you will try to do everything in a single file, then after some time it will be very difficult to read. So in this video we are gonna see how we can organize this code so that it looks better and it gives a better feel, right? So what we are gonna do, first of all, I am going to create a new chapter. So I'll click here, I'll create a new branch. I will call it dev hashtag chapter 4, and inside this chapter, first of all, we will do the refactoring. So guys, first of all, I don't want this drawer to be here. So this drawer is actually can have a separate file where we can write this drawer. So I will go here inside this lib folder and I'll create a new file. I will call it drawer.dart, and inside this file I am going to import the same material.dart package, and now I will copy this code from drawer and try to paste it there. So this is the code. I'll just copy it from here or cut it from here, and I will try to paste it here, but it will not work because this file cannot understand from where it is starting, from where it should end. So rather than just pasting, we will create a new stateless widget because our drawer is not changing right now, or we are not doing any runtime change. So that's why this can be a stateless widget. So I can say stateless widget, and I'm going to name it my drawer, let's say. So my drawer is here. Now rather this container, we will return this entire drawer. We will remove this comma from the end, and now it is good to go. Now rather than, we'll go back to main.dart, and rather than specifying the entire drawer here, I can say my drawer. And now I have to do one more thing. I have to just import it. So it's already imported here, as you can see on the top. And now if I'll just press Command S to save it, you will see everything is working, right? So everything is smooth. So similarly, what we will do, we will also remove this card. So what I'm gonna do, guys, this card, I'm going to select this card. So this card I have selected till this braces. So for this bracket, I will use this, and then I'll press on this bulb button, and there is something called extract method and extract widget. So I can extract this widget, and once I extract it, it will ask me to give it a name so that you can create a new widget by itself. So we can say something like a name card. Okay, so name card widget. So we gave this name. If you will see name card widget, and if I press enter here, so you will see it will be replaced by name card widget. And now we have a class with name card widget which extend a stateful widget, and it takes all the properties in the constructor like my text, my controller, name controller, and everything here. Now we can also make a separate file of this. So we can say name card widget.dart, and here in this file we can copy and paste that code. So first of all, I will import material.dart, and then from the main method, I'm going to cut this whole class, and I'll paste it here inside this, and this is looking good. And now I'm going to just import it. So I will press command dot or alt enter in Android Studio, or control dot in VS Code for Windows, and command S, and now you can see everything is still the same. Everything is working. There is no error or bug, and now it's looking much cleaner, just 61 lines of code. But guys, we can do one more thing. We can remove this entire home page from here. We can create a separate pages folder. So inside lib, we will create one more folder, this time pages, and here we will create a new file. We will call it home_page.dart, and here also we will import material.dart, and then we can cut this particular code from here and we can paste it here. Okay, and this time we will import the drawer, we will import the name card widget, and then the drawer, and we should be good to go. And here in the main.dart, I will import this home page, and yes, and we will remove these two unused imports. So as soon as I do that, I need to do a hot restart, and everything will start working. Yes, everything is same. And in fact, if you don't want to do this hot restart again and again, then you can also remove this material app from here. So we can remove it, and we can say something like here stateless widget, and we can say my app, and we can just remove this material app from here, and we can say something like this, and we can here now in the run app we can just say my app, and that's it. That's the only thing we have to do, and now everything looks the same. But the good thing is, like, you know, everything is looking like this is just having 19 lines of code or 20 lines of code. Then the home page is also just 40 lines of code. Our drawer is also 30 lines of code, and name card widget is also 40-50 lines of code. So this way it will be much more organized. And this test widget test is also giving us some issue. So now I'm gonna just remove home page, and I'll now say again my app, and it will fix that issue as well. So I'm just gonna remove it, and yes, we are good to go, guys. So this is something which is very important, organizing your code. And in the next video we are gonna see how we can do networking in Flutter, and how we can add a dependency, our first dependency in the pubspec.yaml. So keep watching. Hey guys, so we have done so many things so far, and I'm really glad that you could make it so far. So we have seen a lot of things like how to use drawer, how to actually use stateful widgets, how to change the name using this text field, and now we are gonna do some real world things like you know, we have done everything so far which is offline. Now we want to go to the online mode as well. And by online I mean that how we will communicate with maybe you can say with the server, or maybe with the backend. And then we are also as I told you, if you remember that in the pubspec.yaml we add dependencies, or which means that some libraries, maybe packages, plugins to talk to native code as well, and to talk to maybe your backend. So that's what we are gonna do in this particular video. And guys, one thing again which is very important is that make sure that you also check the notes during this course, because there might be few important things or few things which you definitely want to take a look. So now let me just explain you once that what we are actually gonna do. So if you are not familiar with this, then I'm just gonna explain you that what I am talking about actually. So if I do that, yeah, so if you can see my iPad here, then I'm gonna just explain you this. So basically, but what I mean here is that, let's say this is what we have, this is screen, okay, and this is our computer, okay. So this is my computer, and let's say this is my computer, and we call it a client, okay. So when we are talking about the client, which means our computer, which is somewhere here, let's say in India, okay, and it wants to make a request. So it's a kind of a request, and it makes it to a server, okay, server somewhere on the cloud. And this cloud does not mean it's up in the air. This just means that this is another computer which is somewhere else in the world, maybe in Asia, maybe in US, anywhere it can be. And now this is making a request, and it wants something from it. So what it will send is a request, and what this server will send to this client will be a response, okay. So this is the important part now, because this is kind of a communication which is happening, and they have to follow some protocols. Now if you will just think that if you are driving, or if you are going from one place to another, then you have to follow some protocols, you have to follow some rules, right? So similarly, they have some protocols which they have to follow, and that's what we called HTTP, which means hypertext transfer protocol. And using this protocol only they can communicate. So this is what we are going to use. And then the way they communicate can be in different forms. One of the forms which is very popular, the how they transfer message, is what we called JSON, which means JavaScript object notation. And if you want me to explain it more, then you can just call it like it's kind of this you can say key values pair, where there will be a key, let's say name is a key, and then it will have some value, which is, let's say Pawan is a value of this name. So this is how they actually communicates. So this is something which we need to understand. And now we will actually proceed further. And now I'll go to pubspec.yaml and I'll add one dependency, and that dependency would be, I will go to my website or the Chrome browser, and I'll write pub.dev, and here I can search for HTTP. As you can see, this is the first package, or you can say library, which we will get HTTP, and this is the version. I will see how we can install that. So this is how we can install that. So we are just going to copy it, and then we will paste it inside the pubspec.yaml below this line, which is Cupertino icons, and then you will press Command S, or you can just write flutter packages get, and you should get exit code 0, which means everything worked pretty well. And I am also gonna enable the screencast mode so that you can see my shortcuts. So yeah, this is looking good now. And now if I'll go back to home page, I am using this name card widget, and I really don't need it anymore. So I'm gonna remove this, as well as I'm gonna remove this single child scroll view as well, because I don't need any of them. So let's remove this child, and now we will see nothing on the screen technically. So I'm also gonna run this application so that we can check. And guys, one more thing is there, like when you are adding any package or plugin, so once you are adding a plugin, which means it has some code written in Kotlin or maybe on Objective-C or Swift, then you have to restart your app. I mean, restart from the scratch, which means you have to stop it if it's running already, and then you need to start it so that your application can understand about those plugins, or otherwise it will give you some platform exception. But in case of packages like HTTP or any other package which is totally written in Dart, then you don't have to restart your application from scratch. You can just do a hot restart, so that will also work. Now as you can see, we have nothing here, but now we are gonna use that HTTP package to fetch some data. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, this we don't need anymore, so I can just comment it as of now. And here I'm gonna say that I am going to hit a URL, okay, from where we will get the data. So URL is kind of an address which is similar to your home address, right? So every website or every web page has an address. So here you'll see we have this dummy address, which is jsonplaceholder.tpcode.com/photos. So we are gonna use this address and we are gonna paste it here. So you can see this HTTPS, which is S is for security, you can say, which means it has SSL certificate, and this is HTTP, which is hypertext transfer protocol, which is the rules it needs to follow. Now I'm also gonna explain you something about asynchronous programming very soon, just an idea about it. So this is what we have done, right? And then we will be waiting for some response, or maybe I should say some data. Okay, and then here in init state I can say, let's say, fetch data. Okay, so this is the method which we are going to call. Now fetch data is not defined as of now. And guys, one more thing is that you can see that I see these kind of errors right next to this particular line. And what if you want to see it, then you can go to this problems, and here you will see the same problem. But why I am seeing it here, this red one, is because of an extension which is a error lens. So if you want, you can install it, and you can definitely watch my VS Code tutorial on YouTube so that you can get the idea. And now we have to define this fetch data method. So I am gonna say fetch data here. And now there are two kinds of communication or operations which can be done, and that's what I'll explain you next. So if we are talking about that, so let me just tell you. So let's say there are two kinds of operation. One is asynchronous, so we can say async, and second one is sync, so which means synchronous. So let's say guys, once you go to a pizza store, okay, so you go to a pizza store, so you ask for a pizza, right? So when you ask for a pizza, it's not like, so there is a guy, this guy A, he will take your order, okay, so you will go to him, he will take your order, he will write it somewhere, and then your pizza will be like, it's preparing, right? And by that time your pizza is preparing, this guy A goes to some other person, some random person here, he will take his order as well, and then his pizza will be preparing, and then he will take some others order, and then his pizza will be preparing, and as soon as your pizza will be prepared, he will deliver that pizza to you, right? And then again the same process will follow. This is called asynchronous programming. But in case of synchronous, it's more like that, it's like you are here at a ticket counter, okay, and there are many people in the line A, B, C, D, or maybe you are at an ATM. So you will see that once A will be done with the process, then only B can go. So which means he will give him money, he will ask for ticket, he will give him ticket back, and then only A will go, okay, and then it will be done for B, and then it will be done for C. So this is called synchronous programming, okay. And when we are dealing with applications like these, so we want to have experience like asynchronous programming, where user does not want to wait, so maybe he can do something else while that thing is happening. So that's why we are gonna use async here, and I'm gonna make a separate course for this, so don't worry about that if you don't understand few parts of it. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to import, so we can remove this name card widget, and I'm going to import here the HTTP package which we just use, and we can import it as HTTP. So now we can use this HTTP keyword to call all of its method. So as you can see, unused import, we haven't used it, but here in fetch data we are going to use it. So http dot get, so this is there are various kind of requests which we can make, like get, post, put, and delete. So those are some of the requests. So get means to get something, and post means to actually create something there. So it needs an URL, so we already have a URL, so we are giving that URL. Now we want it to be asynchronous, so we need to call it await here, which means wait for it until it gives you some data, right? And we will store it to a response, which is where is a keyword which we can use to store a variable. And now once we receive that response, we can print it using rest.body. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. And now just see this debug console. I'm gonna do a hot restart, and we got some error that name controller is not defined and something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna just comment this particular line here, and we are going back here, just clean it out and do a hot restart. So you will see that this URL will definitely give us some data. So this is the data, as you can see, this is the data which we got. Okay, and as you can see, this is again in the JSON form which I just described you in the beginning with the diagram, that this is how we will treat this data. Okay, so now once we got JSON, we need to parse it as well. Okay, so for parsing, JSON parsing, we will use something called another library which we call dart_convert. So what it will give you is, it will give you a method called JSON decode. So now we have this data, and we can use this data with this JSON decode. And for decoding JSON, it will give us the map. Map means it will have a key and value, so we need to give it a source. Okay, so by default the data which we are getting, so you must have seen this data, this is actually a string. We need to convert it to a JSON object, so that's why we are using JSON decode, and we will pass it the res.body. So we will get this data here. And now we can also, in the center here, we can also check if this data is not equal to null. So we can check if the data is not equal to null, then show a container. So this question mark means conditional operator we are applying here. and then this colon. And otherwise, if it is null, then in the center, what you can do, just show a circular progress indicator. So which means this, which you will see. So this is now showing this circular progress indicator, which means our data is null as of now. Okay, but as you can see, we are already receiving some data, and let's try to print that data as well. So print data, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do a hot restart again, because every time you are doing something in the init state, you need to hot restart. Okay, so I'm gonna clean it, and I'm going to do a hot restart so that it can print the data. And yeah, it's printing the data, guys. And this time you can see this is not a string, this time it's an object. But the problem is that even if it is printing the data, our data is still null. That's why it is showing this circular progress indicator. This is happening because our UI does not know that we got the data. Somehow we have to tell it that yes, we got the data. Now you need to refresh yourself. So as I told you in previous video, whenever you get this data, you have to, whenever you want to change the UI, you have to call set state. Okay, and as soon as I will do it, you will see the circle is not appearing anymore, and now we have got some data. That means this blank container, if I give it a color, then you will see that we actually got the data. So let's say we say color dot blue, so you will see this blue screen, right? So this is fine, but this is not how we want the data. We want the data to be inside the list view, so we will use ListView dot builder. Okay, and this way what we can do, we can specify an item builder. So what item builder means is that how your items will look in the list view, and then also we are going to give it an item count. Okay, that total how many items will be there. So we can just say data dot length, which means this will be our item count, whatever length of data we are getting. And the for item builder, it gives us two things. One is the context, which is actually I'll make a separate content on this context as well, but just for understanding, you can say you will see this context with every kind of widget inside this build method. As you can see, we are getting this context. So context is basically something which have the location of your widget. Okay, so it's kind of like every widget has some location in the widget tree, so this context is basically aligned to that. So basically what happens is that there is three trees which you are working on. One is your widget tree, then second is element tree, and third is the render tree. So this element tree is associated with this context, and you don't have to go in detail. Just make sure right now that you understand that this context is kind of a location of that widget in the widget tree. And then it also gives you index, that what is the index of your particular item. And if you know that in programming that everything starts from 0, so this index is also starts from 0. Okay, and here we can just say return a list tile. Okay, the same thing which we used in drawer. And so why list tile? Because it has already some inbuilt properties like leading. So for leading we can use something, and we have title. So let's try to use something like title, and we can use data, and then we can pass the index, that for which index we want the data, and then we have to specify a key. So here you will see that we have multiple keys like album ID, title, URL, and thumbnail URL. So I'm going to use this title, so I can say title. And now you will see this is not a subtype of widget, because it's a string. Okay, but title takes a widget, so we will just copy it, and we will remove this, and we will use text here, and then we will paste it. And now if you will see, then we have all the titles here. Okay, and we have the list view, and this ListView.builder is kind of a recycler view in Android. So which means it do the caching as well, it do the recycling as well. So it actually carries all the elements which is visible on the screen. If it is not visible, then it does not care about that. Okay, this is what we have done right now. Similarly, we will have the subtitle as well, and this time we will use something called string interpolation, which starts with $, and we can actually use this curly braces to give variable to it. Let's say data, and then index, and this time we can just access the ID. So now we have the ID, and you can see 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see 4, 5, 6, 7. And now why I use this in string interpolation, so that I can write something like ID colon space, and now every element have this ID 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and all. And the last thing is that we want in the leading to use an image. So we will be fetching image from the network, so we can use image.network, and for this we can again use data index, and this time if you'll see we have something called a URL and thumbnail URL. So I'm gonna use URL, so URL, and now you will see we should see the images. Yes, we can see them, and this is looking pretty nice, right? So this is what we can do, and this is what we are fetching from the internet. So you don't have to worry anymore that how to parse JSON, how to fetch data using these things. And this is how we will end this chapter 4. So chapter 4 is completed, and in the next video we will move to chapter 5, and we will talk about some interesting stuff like how to make login page, how to do navigations and all. Hey, what's up guys, and we have done a lot of things in the last video. We actually saw how to use this package called HTTP to make network calls. We also fetched some data from you can say a dummy server, and then we also saw that how we can use ListView.builder to perform some operations. Also, I forgot to tell you one thing in the last video, which is that you can also use GridView to represent this. Although the information like this is a very long information, so GridView will not make much sense, but let me just tell you, it's very easy to convert it to a grid view. So we could just replace this list view with grid view, and then we could use it with gridview.builder, but then we need to add one more extra parameter, which is grid delegate. So grid delegate takes a sliver. Grid delegate sliver itself a very big topic which we will cover later, but what it takes is sliver grid delegate with fixed cross axis count, which means how many items you want to show in one row. So cross axis count, let's say 2. So 2 items will be shown. As you can see, this is now a grid view, and if you want to change it to 3, you can change it, and then there will be 3 items, although it looks pretty bad because of the text we are using. So we are going to switch back to list view. This is just for understanding purposes, and yeah, that's what we did. Now I'm just gonna go back, and I'm going to start a new chapter. So I'll create a new branch. I will call it dev hashtags chapter 5. And in this chapter, guys, what we are going to cover is that how to design a login page, as well as how we will do the navigation. So for navigation, we have just one page as of now, home page. So we need to design a new page quickly. So here in the pages section, I'll click a new file. I am calling it login underscore page dot dart. Quickly, we are here, and we are going to import material dot dart, and at the same time this is going to be a stateless widget as of now. So I can call it maybe, let's say, a login page. So by default you can start with stateless widget, and then when you see that you need some kind of state change, then you can directly convert it to a stateful widget. That's how I will suggest you to proceed, and then we can use a scaffold. And guys, because we cannot see any changes here because we are using home page, so we can go to our main.dart. Here, rather than this home page, we can make it a login page, and then we need to import this login page so that we can see the changes. So now we are on the login page. We can also remove this debug banner if you want. So for that, we can just write here debug show checked mode banner, and we can make it false. So you will see that banner is gone and it's not there anymore. Now we will go back to our login page. This is the scaffold. Here we will again use app bar. So app bar widget, and then title, and in the text part we can just tell it, let's say, a login page. Okay, and this is fine. This is what we have been seeing. Okay, and in the body, what I'm gonna use, I am again going to use a single child scroll view. Why? Because I want the scrolling to happen if it's a small screen, and then I'm going to take a column, and inside the column I'm going to take some children. like we could have something like username or maybe a password. So those are the things which we can have. But guys, I have already told you about text field. What if I told you this time like something new? So this time I'm gonna tell you that we can also use something called a form. So form is another widget which can helpful in collecting like a data set. Okay, so let's say if you have username, password, or maybe you have a registration page and you want to collect all the data and you want to validate that, you want to save that, so you can use form in that case. So let me just tell you how you can use a form. So for that we will convert it to a stateless to stateful widget. What's the purpose? So that we can actually generate a form key, and even if you don't want to use it, then also we can right now proceed, but in future if you want to show something on your screen in the login page, then definitely you need it. So right now let's have a form key. So we can say a form key. So basically this is a global key, okay, and this global key actually takes a form state. So form state, and this is our form key, and inside this column we are going to have all the elements. So I can wrap it with a form. So form is here now. If you'll see, if I haven't told you already, then every widget takes a key, as I told you. So key is basically, it represent what widget is. Like, I mean, this is a widget, but how you will identify which widget is this? So you can give it a key, let's say pk1. It can be a local key, object key, unique key, whatever you want to give it. So that framework identifies that which particular widget to rebuild and when. Okay, so we will give it a form key which we have already created, and using this form key we can save this form, we can validate this, a lot of things we can do. And now this time, rather than text field, if you want to apply the form mechanism, then you have to use text form field. It's kind of same, but it has some more properties. Like you will see, it has on saved, which is important, and validator, which is again important. So these are like, it does not have on changed property. Or it has, actually it has on changed as well. So it is having everything which text field have, but it has some extra fields as well. So yeah, there are a lot of things which maybe you can explore, but right now we cannot. So text form field is there. Now we can have different controllers like we earlier had. So you can say maybe username controller. So you can use them if you want, and if you want to skip them, then also that is fine. As of now it is not actually very much needed, but then it's good to have them. And similarly we can have password controller, and this will be again text editing controller. And as you know, we are using Dart 2, so we can skip this new keyword. So that's why I'm not using this new keyword, otherwise it is the same thing. And here in this text form field, for the controller part, I'm going to use username controller. And guys, this time I'm gonna show you the username is actually having let's say an email ID. So we can have a keyboard type and text input type dot email address, which means the keyboard which it will open, if you'll click here, then it will be of type of email. As you can see, @ symbol here. So this is what it will do. Okay, so that's the advantage. And then we can have the decoration as well, and I can call it input decoration. And here for the hint text, I will say enter email. Okay, enter email. And then for label text, I can say maybe username, just for the idea. And similarly, I'm going to copy and paste this another time, and this time I am going to call it password controller. So password controller, and enter password, and then label text could be password. And this is looking good, but if you will enter some password, first of all, it should not be of type email address, so I can just say text. So now if you will click here, then you will see there is no @ symbol anymore. So that's a good thing. And also we don't want to show the password by default, so we can obscure this text to true, and then you will see we will have only this dot dot dot. Okay, and every time you will do a hot reload, then you will see you will lose every character here. Okay, so if I do hot reload, you will see that we lost actually the data in the password. So for that we need to actually convert it to a stateful widget so that we don't lose it. If you will now if I'll write something here, if I'll do a control hot reload, then you will see nothing is lost. Okay, so this is again important thing, that's why I told you. And now it is actually very much stick to this corners. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give some padding to this column. So let's give it a padding of 16 so that it does not look that bad. It's looking fine now. And one more thing we can do, guys, is we can actually make it in the center. That's also will be fine. And then we can wrap it with a card as well so that it takes the only space which is needed. So now we have a card, we have text form field, and we can also have a button. So there can be many kind of button, like a flat button, raised button, outline button. So there are a lot of buttons, even raw material button in the material design guidelines. So we are going to use a raised button which has some kind of elevation. So again, I told you in the beginning as well that every button has a property called on pressed. So what will happen when you will press on it, right? So this is looking cool. And guys, we need to give it a child. So let's say text, and we can call it sign in. Okay, we can also give some color to this particular button. So there is a property called color. We can call it, let's say, colors dot yellow, maybe, if it looks fine. Maybe orange will look much better. So orange. And for text color, either you can go with black, or maybe you can also say text color as white, if that looks good to you. So sign in is also there. We want to give some space as well between them. So let's give a space with sized box. So sized box, height, and then maybe 10. Let's see if that looks good. Even we can give 20, to be honest, because we have a lot of space in this screen. And then here as well. And this is looking good, guys. But still it is not in the center, because our main axis alignment should be in the center. And it's not in the center because we are using single child scroll view, so that's why it's not in the center. If I will remove this, then it will already go to the center. And if you'll see that, so here it is, right? So we are going to use single child scroll view anyway. And what I'm gonna show you, the another thing is that we can also wrap this entire stuff. So I'm going to copy this single child scroll view, and I want a background image. Okay, so in the background I want an image, the same image which we used. For that purpose we can use a stack. So stack means that this is a widget where there will be items placed one on the top of another. Okay, so here also it takes a children, and the first element which we can use is image.asset, and we can say asset slash bg.jpg. This is the same thing which we have already used, right? And now this is the image, but we want it full screen. So stack has a property called fit, and this time it does not take box fit, but it takes stack fit. So we can say expand, so it will expand. And then we can call here the fit as box fit dot cover, so that it can cover the entire section, right? But this is looking good. But at the same time you will see that this is actually so if what I can do, if I'll just paste all the code again, so it looks, but you know, the background is very visible, so it does not look that good, right? So what we can do to avoid that, so for that, if I go back to this image, then there is another property called color. Okay, so I can use color, I can use colors dot black, and then with opacity, so I can give it an opacity of 0.7, and it is actually like the image is kind of gone. So to actually make it just darken, we can use something called a blend mode. So color blend mode is there, and we can say blend mode dot darken. So now you will see a darken version of it. and it looks pretty fine, to be honest. It's not looking that bad at all. And then we can just wrap this single child scroll view with another padding, so that okay, this card is looking better now. And if you want, you can now push this to center, and this will be going to the centers, and this center now we can remove. And yeah, so this is everything which you can do, right? And now what we can do, when we press on this sign in button, we can go to actually the home page. So for that, how to do the routing thing, we can use a class called navigator. Okay, so here in the on pressed, I can say navigator. Now navigator has many methods like pop means going back, push means actually pushing onto something on the stack. So if you want to understand with a diagram, so how we will do that, let's just see how it works. So let's say if you have certain CDs, so this is, let's say this is actually not looking like a CD. This is a very bad CD, and I'm just gonna remove it. So let's say we have a CD like this, and on the top of it there is another CD, and then there is another CD. So push means adding one on the top, pop means actually removing from the top, okay, and then pop means removing another one, and then pop means removing another one, and push means adding another one on the top. Okay, so this is what actually stack do. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. So we are going to push, which means we want to go to the next screen. So push means going to next screen, pop means going back, and it takes a route. So we can use a material page route. Okay, and this material page route takes a builder. Builder means it takes a context, and then what widget you want to build. So we want to actually go to this home page widget. So home page we can just say, and then we need to import this home page because it does not understand what is home page. So we can import library home page dot. So page is slash home page dot. So here we are, we can remove this main dot. And now if I will click on this sign in button, then it will take us to the home page, right? But if I will press this back button now, then we can go back to our home page, which we won't be needed maybe in future, because once we are like crossing this login page, then we don't want to come back unless someone press the logout button, right? So that's fine. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you the use of the form. Okay, so how we could use the form. So we could use our form key which we created. So form key, and we could use the current state from that. So current state is what is the state of the form, I mean what data you have entered, what is its state. And then we could say save, validate, and everything. Okay, so we could say validate, it could validate all the fields for us, and we could say save. Let's say we could say validate, what would happen if we will call it like validate. So it will go to this text form field and it will check what's happening on the validate. So we haven't implemented it, so nothing will work. So we can just say validator, and we can do some operations here. Okay, and it will check that. Similarly, it will go to the second form field, and it can check the validator here as well. And by comparing all of them, then it will see if everything is true or not. Then only it will give us. So validate, if you will see, it gives us a boolean, which means everything was true or not. If not, then do something. If yes, then do something else. So it's again something which you can right now skip. So this is how you will understand that push means going to home page. And let's say in the home page, let's say we are here, and in the action bar, which is app bar, we can have some actions as well. And this time I'm gonna talk about a new widget, which is icon button. So in the icon button, I could say I have an icon, so I can use icons library. So icons dot, let's say logout, which means exit to app, something like this. And then because it's a button, so it is also needed to have an on pressed button. Okay, and this time I could say something like navigator dot pop, so that it can go back to that screen. So if I'll press here now, it will take me back to the login page. And in fact, we can again make it more easy. Like this is looking like kind of a lot of work. So what we can do in the login page, we can give it a static const string a route name. Okay, so basically we can name this particular route. So we can say, let's say slash login. So this is our route. Similarly, we can give it to home page, but right now we don't need it. So in the main dot dot for home, we have already specified login page, right? And then we can have another property which we call the routes, and it takes a map. So basically we have to say what is the route name and where it will go. So we can use login page dot route name, and where it goes, we can use context to define that it goes to login page. Okay, similarly we can have the same thing for home page. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this thing from here, and I am going to paste it to this particular home page as well, and we can call it slash home. Okay, and in the main dot dot we can just copy this, and I am doing it with Control D, by the way. So home page, and we can say home page. And now guys, going to login page, we can actually, so basically if you want to transfer some data from here to this page, then in the constructor of home page you can pass some data, right? But let's say if you don't want to pass a data, and if you want to have some simple way to run it, some clean way to write it, then we can use something called navigator dot push named, which means we can pass the name of that particular route, and we can say home page dot route name. Okay, and now this will perform the same thing. This is much cleaner. And now if I'll click here, then also it will go to this particular page. Now if I will just remove this application from the stack, and then I'll try to go back, then also it will take me to the login screen. Also it is right now, it will not work because we are using virtual machine, so it does not understand what was there in the last time. But if I do a hot restart, or maybe if I try to restart this application, it will actually start from the login page, which we don't want. And in the next video we will see that how actually we can log in the user, and whenever he will actually run this application. So if I run this application right now, so it will launch the login screen, but once the user is logged in, we don't want to actually take him back to the login screen. So that's why we are going to use something called shared preferences in the next video. And by the time, I'm just gonna show you once, if I'll run this application again, then you are going to see a login screen, okay, and not the home screen. So every time it will take you to the login screen, which we don't want. Okay, so that's you might have seen in most of the applications. So as you can see, we are back to the login page, and the next video we will definitely check it how we. Hey guys, so we have seen a lot of things again. This time we have seen this login page where we have this form where we have username and password, and then there's a button which is a raised button, and when we click on it, it goes to the next screen. But our application does not know how to actually store this state, which is a persistent state. And we can use something like shared preference to store this persistent state in keys and values, and this thing will be asynchronous as well. So we actually don't know how to use it yet, right? So for that, what we are going to use, we are going to go to pub.dev, and here I can write shared preferences, and if we'll click here, then this is the shared preferences package, and this is now it's not just a package, it's actually a plugin. So which means there is some code which is written in for Android, it is written, maybe it is written in Kotlin. For iOS, maybe it is written in Objective-C or Swift. Similarly on Android, it might be written in Java as well. And for web, it might be having something else, let's say JavaScript and some other things. So it uses local storage there. So yeah, this is actually something which we are going to use. And for that, we have to go to this installing section, and then we can add this dependency. And guys, this is probably the last course of this particular series. Pardon me, this is probably the last video of this series, and there can be more videos added in the future for sure. And the best part is that we will be updating this course regularly. So shared preferences 0.5.6 plus 1, I guess. Let me just see that. Yeah, 0.5.6 plus 1, exit code 0, which means it is successful. And as I told you, whenever you will add a plugin, then you have to actually restart your application. Otherwise you will get an exception like platform exception, that this is some plugin missing exception and something like that. So now we are running this application again. We are having two pages. One is the login page, another one is the home page, and we have added shared preferences. Now inside the lib we can have something like a new folder, and we can call it utils. And inside this utils we can have a new file called constants dot. Okay, and by the time it is running, we can have a class here. We can call it constants, and if it can constants. Okay, this is looking good. Now inside this class we can have a static reference to our shared preference. So shared preference and preference, so prefs, we can just call it prefs, so that we don't want to, like, this is kind of a singleton. So if it's a singleton, that we don't want to create a new instance of it, so that's why it's singleton. So we can just store a static reference to this. And now I will go to my main.dart, and this time what I'm gonna do here, because we want to store it, the shared preference, and we need to use the await keyword. So I'm going to first of all make it a future, and then I'm going to add a asynchronous like this particular keyword here. And then we have to do something like widget binding. So there is something called widget flutter binding. So it has a method which we have to call ensure initialized. That means make sure that everything is initialized. And then we can use our constants dot, so we need to import it as well, dot prefs, and we can use now await keyword, and we can use shared preferences dot get instance. So by this we will get the instance of the shared preference, whatever instance it is having, because it's always going to have single instance, and that's why it's a singleton class. If you'll go here, you will see that this is actually a singleton class, right? So this makes sense to me. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to come back here, and when I'm doing the login page, I am going to use, before actually doing the navigation, I am going to use this constants, okay, dot let me just import it, dot prefs dot set, and we have set string, set int, set bool. So for this simple data types you can use shared preferences. So for set bool we will use, and the key I'm gonna say is logged in, okay, and the value I'm gonna say is true, that which means is that logged in is now true. So what we can do now, if I go to sign in, and if I click here, what, nothing is working. That's weird. Let's just see why it's not working. Oh, we got an error that this constant dot prefs, it does not understand that. So which means we have to restart our application, because we did some changes in the main.dart. And now if I click on the sign in button, then you'll see I came to this home page, right? But if I'll do a hot restart again, then it will take me back to the login page, which I don't want, because I just saved this particular property that if it is logged in, which means true, then actually I don't want to come back to home screen. How we can do that? So in the main.dart, you can see in the home part we are using login page, right? So what we will do here, we will say just use my const.prefs and get me the boolean, which is what is the key? Logged in, okay? And if it is true, By default it will be false, but if it is true, then take me to home page. Okay, but if it is false, then take me to login page. Okay, so this is after this. If we say this, then now you can see we are back to this home page, and now even if I do a hot restart, then also it will be always having me on the home page. But if I press the back button this time, then it will just, you know, remove this app from this stack. And that's what I always wanted. But there's one more thing we can do, guys. In the login page, we can actually replace this. Okay, so rather than push named, we can actually replace it, so that every time when we could say something like push replacement named, which means it will be removed from the stack, this login page, so that there is no chance of coming back to this screen. And now we have to actually run it again, because, and this time when we will run it, so because our logged in is true, so it should take us to the home page rather than login page, right? So let's see how that goes. And I hope, I just don't hope, I am sure that it will work like what we want. So one more thing is, guys, that you can use string, integer, boolean most of the time, and then also you can use a list as well, but you have to then use something like JSON encode to like convert it to a string, and then maybe you can save it. And this is for small variables. And as you can see, we are now on the home page rather than login page. And now what you will see, that how we can now go back to home page, because you just told us that it is not true. How to make it false, right? So in the home page, when the person is actually you know, this time this navigator dot pop will not work. So when the person, let's say, is trying to log out, so we could say constants dot prefs dot set bool, and this time in the key part, again I'm gonna say the same key, logged in, and this time the value I'm gonna give is false, so make it false. Okay, and then if now you will press on it, because it's having this navigator dot pop, let me just open the debug console as well. If I click here, then you will see it will pop this home screen. So now we have no screen, so that's what we don't want. So now we will do a hot restart, and this time we will go to login page, and now you will fill some data here, whatever you want to fill. There is no validation as of now, and that's not this in the scope of this particular course. So now if I press sign in, this is fine. But now this is actually, we are using push replacement. So if now you will press back button, then it will not take you back to the login screen. But if you might have missed this you know, push replacement thing, then it will take you back to the home screen. In iOS there is no back button, but in Android there is definitely is. So we need to be very careful. And rather than this navigator dot pop, we can again use navigator dot push replacement named. Okay, so that, and I'm gonna show you, if I'll go to let's say if I just go to using this push named, I go to this login page, let's say login page dot route name, then if I will just, you know, try to press this login button, then it will take us to this login page. But if I will press back here, then you can see we are back to this home page. So that's what we don't want. So that's why I told you to use here push replacement named. Okay, and there is a whole course which is coming for this routing thing. There will be a lot of things which you will be learning. So now if I'll press here, then you can see we came back to login page. But now if I'll press this back button, then, you know, we went to some other application, because it's just a debug application. So that's what you can do, guys. And now this is how we will end our this particular course, and for the time being. And maybe there will be in future, there can be more videos added to it. So if you are watching it after some time, let's say if there are more videos next to it, then it's a great thing. And now we are actually completing chapter 5 at least for this particular course. And also let me know in the comments that what you feel about this course, what should be improved. So there will be, the good part is that if you have paid for this course, there will be a lot of improvements happening all around during this course or even in the next courses. And I hope that you enjoyed this particular series and course where you learned the essential things which you definitely need to learn about Flutter. And then now you can move ahead, you can make your applications, and then you can also take real world course where we will make a real world application using Flutter. You can take Flutter with Firebase course, which should be up very soon. So yeah, thank you so much guys for joining. And as you know, there is this source code you can access. This is already in the notes, you can check it out. And I hope that there are so many apps which you can build using these practices which I have told you. There are many things which can be improved. It's not like these things cannot be improved, but yeah, you will learn it by the time. So thanks guys for watching, and see you in the next. Welcome back guys, and I hope that you have already finished your Flutter Essential course, but because you are a part of MTech Viral School, so there are some extra classes, and in these classes we are going to cover a few more awesome stuff about Flutter, which in case if you want you can skip, but if you use them, then it will make you more productive as a Flutter developer. So that's why I thought about covering them, and in these few videos we will see these awesome things. So in the first video we are going to talk about something called a future builder and how it can help us. So now what I'm gonna do, as you can see, I have changed my branch to dev hashtag extra class. So this is the branch which we will use for extra classes. And before proceeding, I'm going to have a minor change here. So in the lib folder here, I am going to create another folder first of all, that will be widgets, and then I'm going to move this drawer to this widgets, and then this name card widget as well. And now our home page is going to be angry because the import does not work anymore. And I am also going to just import a new relative path, you can say. And also guys, there are notes with every lecture or with every video when you will just slide it down. So please make sure that you are also at least watching those notes, because it can have some extra information which will definitely help you in your Flutter journey. So yeah, just to make sure, because you have already finished, if you haven't seen those notes, then definitely you are missing something. So now when we are talking about this home page, let's create another page here, and we are going to name it let's say home page with future builder, so fb dot dot. Okay, and I'm going to just paste my home page exactly like that here as well, and just going to name it to something else. So I'm going to press F2 and home page fb, which means future builder, and home fb, let's say. And now in the main dot dart, I'm just going to change it from home page to home page fb. So this is just for reference what and how it will look when in case of future builder. And one more thing which you might have noticed is that I am using this time the iOS simulator, just to make sure that everything works on iOS as well. And now we are here in the home page with fb, and as you can see, we are using a stateful widget. We have this method here, fetch data, which is an asynchronous method, and which means it returns a future. Okay, although we are not returning anything here, but if we will write something like this, then also it means the same thing. And if you remember, in the main dot dart, we actually added this future keyword because we had to use this asynchronous keyword. And why? Because we were awaiting for our shared preference to get the instance. So that's what we are doing here. And now talking about future builder is, guys, when you are dealing with this future, or when you are interacting with this future, then future builder is going to give you some snapshots, and based on your snapshot you can build the UI, or the UI will rebuild itself based on those snapshots. And then what will happen, we don't have to use this set state manually. We don't even have to init our state. Like, we can totally make it a stateless widget in that case. So let me just show you how that will work. So what I'm going to do here, this body part I am actually going to remove entirely, and rather than anything else, I am going to use something called a future builder. And now this future builder actually takes few parameters. Let's say future. So future means you have to say what will be the future. So future is our this fetch data because it is returning a future. So I can simply say here fetch data. Okay, and this is my future. And also guys, we can see here that it takes a builder as well. So builder is supposed to give us the context as well as the snapshot, and then it will be also a sync snapshot. As you can see here, if you will see builder here, then you will see a sync snapshot which we are gonna get with this. And then we have to, and there is one more thing, which is initial data. If you have some initial data, you can provide it, otherwise you can just leave it like this. And now snapshot has many things. Like if we want to explore it, then we will see snapshot has this property called has data, whether it has data or not. Then data, what is the data, and has error, whether it has error or not. Then connection state, that what is the status of your connection, and if it has any error or required data. So these are some properties. So I am going to have here a switch case where I'm going to check the connection states. Okay, so switch, and what we are going to like check here, which will be snapshot dot connection state. Okay, and for every connection state we are going to have some widget drawing. Okay, so first case will be if the connection state is none, which means nothing is happening technically. So we will return a center, a child, and we will say in the text nothing is fetched, or you can say fetch something. Okay, because it's actually doing nothing. So fetch something. So this is kind of an instruction which we are giving. And let's say if the case is not this, but the case is connection state dot active. So if it is active, then we will do nothing and we will wait for another connection state, and that connection state can be waiting. So if it is waiting, guys, so what we can do, we can just copy this particular piece of code and we can just return, rather than text, we can return circular progress indicator, which we actually returned earlier as well. So that's what we are going to do. And then there can be one more connection state dot, let's say, done. So if everything is done, then what we are going to say is, let's say, if snapshot dot has error, if it has error, then we can just copy this particular text and can say that some error occurred. So all the cases can be covered here with this future builder. And if there are no errors here, then we can return our ListView.builder. So we can go to home page, we can copy our ListView.builder, and let's try to put it here. And yes, it looks good to go. And this is showing that it is a dead code. Why? Okay, so we have to apply this. Okay, one second, guys. So we have to apply this outside of this has error block. Okay, so now if you will see on the screen here, then maybe if I do a hot restart. Okay, so now it's not working as of now. As you can see that even if we restarted the application, nothing worked, because we don't have to actually use this set state here. Rather, we need to return the data which we are getting. So return data so that we can return the future. So this data is actually giving us a map value. So we can also say map here. It's optional. If you will avoid it, it will give some dynamic value. And yeah, so it's giving some dynamic value. If I say nothing here, which means some dynamic value, which is actually this data value, then you can see we got the same result, right? And if I do a hot restart now, you will see that it will show some indicator and then this, right? And let's say if you want to see some exception, if let's say by default or by mistake you actually wrote some wrong URL, then you will see that it will show you. Let me just do a hot restart so that this URL can be reflected, and you can see we got some error occurred because this is a wrong URL and we cannot get some data. And let's say if how you will see that if connection state is none is actually you can make this future as null, and then there will be no connection state. So we should see something like fetch something. So in that case we can change the icon here, okay, to refresh, and when we are pressing this button then we can actually enable a flag by which you can do a set state and it can fetch some data here. Okay, so we will basically replace this null with the fetch data, and then we will get some data. So this is how future builder works. I hope that you got the idea that how it works, and it can be very useful, right? Because you don't have to, like, you can check things like this. You don't have to apply so many if else. You don't have to check whether this is something where if your URL is correct or not. And guys, now because there is no need of using a stateful widget because we are not doing set state anywhere. So what you can do, you can totally remove everything. Like we can remove this, we can remove this, and we can in fact remove this variable data from here, and we can just say where data, and we can also move this URL to here, and we can make it final as well. We could make it final earlier as well. And now guys, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to make it a stateless widget, and you can just see why stateless widget, because it's not like a stateful widget will harm you or something, but that is totally fine if there can be lesser lines of code. So that's the only difference. And now this is a stateless widget, guys, and now it's saying data.length. Okay, so one more thing which we had to make right was we missed something, that this data is not this data which we are returning from here. So we have to replace it with snapshot.data. Okay, because that is the data. Actually we were also doing the init state, so that's why it was working, otherwise it cannot work now. And now we are all done, and now you will see that we got the data, everything is fine. Now let's do a hot restart again, and this is a stateless widget now. And now we are even performing more things, like we are showing this some error occurred, and showing this fetch something. Then also if you will see the lines of code, then it's just 74, and in this case it was 79, but it was not doing that much task, right? So that is the difference, and this is how future builder can help you, and it makes code looks much more cleaner, and yeah, it can be really helpful. So I hope you enjoyed this, and in the next particular lecture we will talk about StreamBuilder, so just keep watching. Hey guys, I hope that you are enjoying the extra classes, and we just finished Future Builder, and I hope that you enjoyed that part of the video, because that can be really helpful and when you will make some real world applications. Okay, now coming to the next thing is StreamBuilder. So before that, let me just commit this, and we can say Future Builder completed. And also guys, check out the notes as well. So now what we are going to do, let's create one more page here, and this time we can say home page with SB, which means StreamBuilder ... And what I'm gonna do, I'm going to just copy this entire thing from here to this particular place, and this time I'm just going to rename it from FB to SB, okay, which means StreamBuilder. And yes, that's most of it. And now what I'm gonna do, guys, rather than this future builder, so I'll go to main.dart first, and I'm going to say this time home page SB, okay, and rather than this okay, future builder, I am going to call it a stream builder. And what will be the difference? So everything remains the same, but the only thing is that it takes stream, okay, no future. So now can I provide fetch data here? You might be wondering. If yes, then why, and why stream builder? So yes, we cannot provide this data. So fetch data, the purpose of fetch data was to return a future, and for that we had FutureBuilder. But let's say if you're using Firebase, or maybe your backend is returning stream. So what is a stream? Stream is kind of, you can say, a flow of data. Let's say there's a pipe, and inside that pipe you are inserting some kind of data. So that's what you can call a stream, and that's what you can call a StreamBuilder. And let me just demonstrate that to you. So you might be wondering, what is a stream? So basically what is a stream is actually, let's say if you have a pipe here, okay, and this pipe is where you can actually insert some data. So it's a flow of data. So let's say first it will insert one here, then there will be another flow when it will insert two here, then another insertion, 3, 4, 5. So basically it's what we called syncing in a stream. So which means inputting some data. So there is a flow of data. So it's not like at one time there is no, like in future there is all the data coming at one time, but in a stream the data is, so that's why it's called a stream. So this is basically called syncing, and when we will output this data, then we will call it streaming. So yes, that's what StreamBuilder is all about. And now we don't have anything like a stream here, so let's make a stream. So let's say we can say stream, and it can return maybe a list of integer, okay, and get stream we can call it. And okay, what maybe like what we want to return here, that's the question now. So we can return something like, let's say, a data, and we can use something like, let's say we copy this particular thing from here, and we have this method here from iterable, and using insert some elements. Okay, so we can have some elements. Let's say we can say list int. I'm gonna just copy it from here, and dot generate, and I can give some length, let's say 20, and for every index I can say some item. Okay, one second guys. So I can say item, and then the index. So maybe something like this. Yes, and then why it's showing me error. Okay, so basically we need integer. So why I'm even using it int here, so let's call it string, and here also let's call it string. So now we will return this data here. So return data, and now rather than returning this or using this fetch data, I will say fetch what was that, get stream. Okay, so get and stream, and that's the only thing which you have to do. So string is not a subtype of type int of index, that's what it is saying to us, and it does not have these properties. So guys, I'm going to remove these things first, and rather than in title, I'm just going to say whatever here at the index, just show me that. And you can see we have item 0 to 19, which means 20 items, and that's how StreamBuilder kind of works. Okay, if you will provide a null here, then also it will say the same thing. As you can see, fetch something and get stream. If you will do a hot restart, then it will show you, and because our data is already with us all the time, so that's why it could not show you this circular progress indicator. So this is how you will deal with the streams, and some in the real world course I'll show you how to actually, or even in the Firebase we will show you that how you can use the streams with the StreamBuilders and Firebase. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to just complete this thing as StreamBuilder completed. So I hope you got the idea guys. So it's a normal flow of data which you will see with the streams, and yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and